First came the Big Bang, then light was born, sound was heard. And sound has become everything. Life, nature, supersonic technology, and silence. Also music, instruments, genres, products. Music drives everything. Listeners, emotions, and more emotions. It drives culture, both on stage and on screen. It drives business with the purchase of tickets, records, and streaming. It's important that creators are paid for their work. That's why royalties for the use of music go to the authors. And we are the ones who make sure they get paid. And music drives the world. Zykes, inspiring imagination.
So let's talk about time management, something you all do and something you all know how to do. And so I'm here to probably make it a bit more systematic and maybe give you a few inspirations and order into how you manage your time. So a few things to cover that I would like to fit within the next 30 some minutes. Why we need time management at all? You all do it. Why just don't go with the flow? 3 things that, thank you to Tamara who invited me here, and Marek. They finished one of my courses and they thought, okay, we need it here. So I got some proposals for topics for today, and so blame them. So one thing that matters, one matrix that matters, not the movie, that's crucial to understand how our brain operates and why time management is so complex. Then a few habits and how to form habits that actually protect you and your time management, and then how to manage multiple projects, something you probably are more interested in. And then let's have a discussion. So why we need time management at all? Now it will be a sad story. According to statistics, as a statistical poll, as an average Polish male, I'm 55% done with my life already. But of course, I can have some sickness, and doctors would say, Piotr, you have 1 year left. So that will be the case then. And the thing that I manage is this box. That's all I have. So that's my passion, and I hope to share a few techniques that I found, because that's my big drive to how to actually use best this small, tiny box that I have left. And why it's important, Warren Buffett estimated top 10 wealthiest men in the world, like $70 billion of wealth. And he says in one interview, I mean, I can buy anything I want, basically. And then he adds, but I can't buy time. So this is my small obsession. It's like, how do we manage the resource that's finite, like your energy and your time? Let's start with a technical definition. For me, productivity is value divided by effort. So if you want to optimize productivity, it means we want to increase the value you're getting out of some effort. Or when you're happy with the value, let's just lower the effort. An effort can be money, effort can be time, an effort can be your energy, which is finite. So you can look at this simple equation from so multiple perspectives. You can even think about relationships in such maybe not very sexy way. Like, how do I put some effort in a relationship and get value? And what is value in a relationship, actually? Is it a bond? Is it a trust? Is it the depth of this relationship? Or what is it? So it's an infinite source to meditate on. Or what's the value when you think about 1 day of value and when you think about 20 years of your life? It completely changes the perspective. So let's talk about a few perspectives that you may have when thinking about time management. And this is my background. I was a software engineer for 10 years, doing hardware and software and having fun, and then managing. And that's how I got into trainings. And I've been doing that for the last 8 years, just doing strictly time management. But I'm a split soul. I'm a musician as well. play multiple instruments and looping. I had an amazing experience to play, having this gentleman, which you may know, it's Leszek Możdżer. I had him on my audience, so that's one of the nice points of my life. He was looking at the looping, and one of the nicest moments of my life, actually, so far. So I'm kind of split soul between, yes, so time management for you, is it science or is it an art? Because in science, you have like one answer. We want to find equation that works. We want to find one solution that just works. And art is completely opposite. You have unique DNA. There will be no such human as you, never again. So with art, we express ourselves in a way that nobody else can. So for me, time management is more an art because every one of you has your own system that probably works for you, that you may tweak and improve a bit here and there, but it's an art. Every one of you will have a different system, but there is science behind it, and I'm here to share the science, so you may experiment with the art. Maybe you'll remember this thing. I don't know, maybe you'll smile, you're from that times. You remember this? 1.44 megabytes. That was 30 years ago. Maybe you remember, if you're from Poland, this thing. So that was internet back then, I don't know, 25 years ago? 4 kilobytes per second. That was 25 years ago. Let's talk about this device. I don't know if you remember the year of introduction. That was 2000, so 23 years ago. So time flies. This thing didn't have Instagram, because there was no Instagram. So life and things change very fast. But the things that didn't change at all is something that we have between our ears, which has been a hardware that we had for thousands of years, and it didn't change at all. So let's talk about the limitations of this hardware, and if we can understand it better, we can just run on it a little bit better. So, matrix that matters. Now, I have a couple of people here in the room, so please raise your hand if you think that I can use these two words, urgent and important, because interchangeably, because they mean exactly the same thing. So raise your hand if you think it's different. Okay, then if it's different, that means we have some kind of combinations. That means there are things that are urgent and important, but there are also things that are urgent and not important. So my task for you for the next 20 seconds, no matter if you're online or here in the room, is think about one thing, one example that's urgent, but it's not important. A thing that's urgent but not important. If it's different things. It's a very hard cognitive task. Go ahead. Pay Zeus. Why paying Zeus is not important? If it's not important, then let's not do it.
It's a matter if it's kind of, I don't know, if my own life is in danger or something like that. It's the kind of thing that's really urgent. You know, I have many important things to do, but well, I might get hurt in a second or anything, so I need to do something about this, you know.
Okay, so in context of
abstractive kind of thing.
Okay, so in context of being in danger, your life in danger, paying Zeus is not really an important thing. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
When comparing paying Zeus and my own life,
okay.
Yeah, that's more important. I think than paying Zeus in time.
Okay, so that's also a point to encourage questions online. If you're online, there's chat. You can ask questions because we'll have then a session that's most interesting for me, because I'll share some maybe background topics that we can cover, but then let's talk about real life, because real life examples are best. So if urgent and important are different things, and for me they are, I would translate them to a proper English, because these two words make no sense for an average person. But let's talk urgency as time pressure And importance, let's think value. That means now we have 4 combinations systematized by General Eisenhower and known as an Eisenhower matrix. So we have things that are urgent and important, which translated to English mean there's time pressure, but there's a big value. So big value is saving life. Time pressure, it means I have to act now. Or things like a critical customer or something that happens, I have to react today or within an hour or within the next 15 minutes, but the value is big. It can be money, it can be your values as well. So relationship, someone close is calling and need help. That's a big value. Then we have things that are no time pressure but have big value. So things like medical examinations, your dentist appointments, and stuff like that, or your development, maybe taking a course or reading a book. So it's not ringing that you should do it now, but there's a big value in it. Then we have time pressure, but low value. And then we have no time pressure and low value. So General Eisenhower would name them, it's a quarter number, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 3 being time pressure and low value. Now, you have at least 4 fingers, so think about 1 quadrant. If you could spend the rest of your life in just one of them, which one do you choose? Which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and you may show it on your fingers, and then I'll continue from that point. So which you choose one, and you live there for the rest of your life. Okay, it's a tough choice. I have 2 and 2. And 2. Okay, if I get 4, I usually get a lot of 4s. That means you really need vacation. Because then at the end of your life, you don't want to say, okay, all my life, what I did had no value at all. But I had no time pressure. Nobody wants that. We want life full of value and purpose. So 2. And now I have a sad news for you. Half of you want number 2, but you have another half of you which you may be not aware. And it comes back to this thing, which is your primal brain wants urgency and your logical brain wants importance. And that's a constant fight. And you know that fight every day. So if we look at your brain as a pyramid, if I cut it, the core of the brain, our limbic brain, the most primal, is driven by emotions. If you trust me now, or you liked me, or I don't know, there's something in my voice that you don't like, suddenly what I say to you makes less sense for your logical brain, just because the animal brain wants you and me to be accepted, or maybe even loved. It wants social connections. It wants to feel safe. So I, on this presentation, want to take care about that too, because your logical brain will not be able to process data. Your emotional brain knows that after this presentation, maybe there's lunch or something. So it scans for dangers and does a lot of things for us. And actually, urgency is here. Think about the course you may take from me, and I say 2 sentences that means exactly completely the same. So I invite you to a 6-week course that you learn some basics of time management, and we work on your example. And then another example. I invite you to a 6-week course where you deal with time management, we'll deal with your task list and everything. I have last 2 spots. So I told you 2 logical sentences. It's the same course with the same value. Everything is exactly the same. What I added was urgency, and urgency drives the primal brain. And we won't get to logic, and it's really hard because logic has a finite resource. You woke up today, you have finite resource. Every time you make a decision or you hear not your native language, it uses cognitive resources. So we're kind of stuck because a lot of things are automated in our brain. And then every time we have to spend energy to come back to logic, and that's why productivity is so hard stuff. So coming back to that equation, how do we then get the most value out of the effort we put, even this presentation? Because honestly, 20% of your effort will give you 80% results. That's another sentence that you can spend years meditating on. Logically, if you analyze what you did last year, 20% of your effort gave you 80% results. And that means if you analyze it well and optimize, then you can go nearly infinite with the value. But you have to know which 20%. And with this presentation, together with Jarek, probably around 12 minutes of this presentation will give you 80% of the whole thing. The crucial thing is to get which 12 minutes gave you the most, and that will be the question. So this is logical sentence, and I wanted to just remind that we're fighting with a very primal force. Every time there's urgency, we're lost. Because then we have to regain control of your logical brain, because logical brain wants to be in quarter 2, which means value, but low time pressure. But honestly, your brain loves urgency. When there is last spot, or only today, there's something that lights up, that makes it more emotional, and you feel more alive even, a bit. So it's not that you want to be in quadrant 2, you want to be on the border between 1, 2, and 3. So habits, let's talk about habits. Habits are the beautiful thing that help you save tons of energy. Because if logic has a finite resource, and then we're fighting with something really primal, it takes a lot of resources. So how do we form habits that will save you tons of energy? I think the key to successful time management is good habits, actually. So, habits. Now, maybe you know this, but which arrow or which line is longer? I mean line between the arrows. The upper one? The lower one? Or they are equal? Yeah, equal. Okay, you were right, they are equal, of course. But what happens here? You cannot fake it. Your brain sees the lower line, the bottom one, as longer. It's a fact. So what happens here is, even though you see the longer line, your logical brain applies the corrections because you've seen it in the past. That's my task now, is to share things, because we get control on this emotional part of the brain by knowing how it works. And sometimes it works really strange. It shows you things that don't exist, or it overreacts. But once you know it, and once you know how it works, you can take control back. So emotions, the only thing you can do is to study it and understand how it works. You cannot reprogram it. It was programmed over thousands of years. The only thing you can do is to know that it behaves a bit strange, especially if it has a smartphone or things like that. Once you know how it works, you can apply corrections like the example before. Logic, a finite resource, so let's talk habits. Habits are really important because once you form a habit, effort goes nearly to zero. It's like driving a car. First, you put some effort into it, and then you can drive nearly till the end of your life, nearly for free, and listen to podcasts or audiobooks or talk with other people. So how do we automate stuff? There's a very simple mechanism for forming habits. If you want morning exercise, or if you want drink water in the morning, that's actually fairly easy to do. But usually we do it really strange because think this is a very logical thing. So let's dissect it a bit. There is a special region in your brain that scans for habits. You have it for free. It's already there. The only thing you have to do is to know how to use it. And your brains look for a specific pattern, for a trigger, which is followed by an action that leads to a reward. That's everything. That's all we need. If there's a stable trigger and a stable action and a stable reward, that's how your brain detects and will do and close this loop for free for you. And actually, if you do it well, the habit is formed when the fourth element appears here, and it's a desire. It's a spike of dopamine, which means that you actually form the habit. That means when your brain sees a trigger, it pushes you toward the action nearly for free. So it's not a reward. The reward now is pushed in time before the action. So dopamine, the molecule that we study more and more, is a molecule of drive, and that's what we need here. So you want to do morning exercises just after morning coffee. I do my push-ups, and then the reward? It can be crossing X in the calendar. Hey, 5th day in a row, yes. People crave control. People crave this feeling that the world is predictable, And once I have this 5th day in a row, something in me makes, yeah, I'm so cool. That's one of the most powerful. The only more powerful reward is being social, when you get few likes for what you do. And so I would study rewards that are in the primal brain because they are a great tool when forming a habit. And once you form a habit, you invest 20, 30, 40 days, and you have it free for the rest of your life. That's how I think you create successful time management in your life. Oh, that's supposed to be an animation showing dopamine, but it doesn't work because it's a PDF. That's a kid waiting for an ice cream. And if you know that meme, it shows an effect of dopamine, drive. I expect something to happen, which is actually what people love the most. It's not about pleasure, but about anticipation of pleasure that actually drives our behavior. So we have a good introduction now to go to the meat of productivity. So first thing, we have to remember that your brain, your emotional brain, that actually drives most of your behavior, loves urgency, loves the spike of emotions. When you do things for the last moment, you actually like it, or not, tell me, but you don't like the stress, but the spike of emotions when you do stuff last moment is actually very pleasurable for many people. So we have to understand there's a fight that your primal brain wants urgency, but your logical brain wants importance. And there's kind of Mordor and Shire fighting against each other, which one side has a bit more power. The second thing is, it's not about how much you know, but how much you put into habits. So after this presentation, you can spend next 20, 30, 40 days into forming just one habit. And once you get this spike of dopamine at the right moment, then you form another one, and then another one. And this way you can form hundreds of habits during your life, and they lower the effort required to do things. You run it for free, and then you have more space to do stuff that really matters. That's how you get to this 20% that gives you 80% results. So few core techniques that I found for many people, working for many people, just sharing like best practices, and let's talk on implementation. So crucial thing is to distinguish tasks and projects, some things that many people mix together, and it's causing a lot of mess. Because there's one way to manage tasks and one purpose, and the other thing is managing projects and its purpose. It's completely different. And once you mix them, there's mess. So let's talk tasks. Tasks are meant to be short. My recommendation would be 2 hours maximum. Something really well defined. And that you clearly see value coming out of the task. So a task can be like a step. If step is too big, you usually have to climb on the stairs. And when the stairs are just the right size, it's pretty comfortable to go up. So how big is the task is actually a crucial thing. And why we do it, because it helps in emotional situations, like we had 2 phone calls, we have 3 urgent emails, and we're lost in priorities. That's not the moment to try to get back control of your logical brain. It doesn't work. You have to have something external to your brain, then look at the sheet of paper or an application or a simple list, and then when you put the thing in context, your emotional brain says, okay, paying Zeus is not that important as driving my wife to give birth, for example. So it helps regain the context, and in emotional situations, that's the critical thing, to have it outside of your brain. David Allen, the founder of Getting Things Done, would say, your brain is for having ideas, not holding them. So let's hold our tasks outside of the brain, and when you lose control or you feel like you're a bit lost, you just look at your task list and you're there again. Because what matters is a simple choice. I have a few well-defined tasks with a clear value. They are like steps, and then it makes easy for your brain to make quick decisions. So that's all about tasks. And there's one simple rule, because probably many of you have task lists, and there's one thing that separates successful task list from not successful task list. And this thing is this. Now, your task, if you're here in the room, is to count these dots and how many there are. If you're online, you can count as well, but I won't hear you. There's 13. Okay. Now, some of you counted one by one. Yes? Maybe by 2? By 3? Okay, by 4? By 5 or more, anyone? So that's how your brain works. When you see a lot of information, it's chunked into really small pieces that you can control. That's a crucial thing. That's why task lists don't work for most people, and one recommendation would be to work well, task lists need to be short. That's why many people start their task list. You have 7, 10 tasks, and you see, yeah, let's get it done. But then you continue your work, and there's the day that you have 40 tasks on your list. You open that list, and it looks at you, it's like, you feel ashamed even, or you feel this pressure, you don't want to open it anymore. So create a separate list called today, or this week, or anything like that. And when you have 7 tasks on your list, and you complete 1, there's 6 left, and you feel, yeah, I'm going to get it done. When you complete 1 out of 40, there's 39 left, and the emotion is, I will never get it done. So that's a subtle change, but for your emotional brain, it's everything. So one recommendation, well-defined tasks like steps, and then short list. That's all it adds. With projects, it's a bit different, because projects are like GPS. So tasks are like, okay, let's change gear from 2 to 3. Okay, let's turn right here. But projects are more like, where am I? Okay, where do I go? What's the next turn? Okay, 13 kilometers, then turn right. So you need a system to look at your projects. Probably many of you run between 5 and 15 projects at the same time. And there's a moment that you look at them from a broader perspective and see, okay, over the last week, these 4 went well, but these 2 are suffering. So there's this moment, not to look at tasks and maybe steps, but maybe look around and see, where am I in the whole context? So projects also are about context, like, these projects go well, these projects need some more energy from me, and maybe these projects I'm not able to do because that's too much. So it's about keeping balance and about ensuring, again, that what you're doing gives you the most value. I will be just repeating this value over and over again, because for me, meditating on this word is actually what matters. Because in 20 years, you'll look back in your life and you'll answer a question, what had the biggest value in my life? You want that more. So, recommendation, well-defined tasks on a list, one list that has probably all the tasks you need, and then a short list on a post-it, in an application, whatever, 7, 5 of them, well-defined. You use it every day, multiple times. Every time you lose perspective, you look on the list, and you have control back again. Projects on a separate list, usually 5 to 15 items, and then you maybe once a week, you need 40 minutes, 45, maybe 60, to look at your projects. Okay, where am I here? Where am I in this project? And where am I in this project? And in this area of my life. Okay, so all these projects go well, but my diet suffered, or my physical exercises suffered. So you want to regain the balance, because you see that the way you drive is not sustainable. So, before we jump into discussion, I hope that was useful and there were like key core concepts, but maybe let's make a small summary and a call to action, like what you can actually do and what would be my recommendation for everyone. So, why we need time management? Because we manage the time we have left. It's a finite resource, and even in nowadays, it's not even about how much time you have left, but how much energy you have left. Because you know these days that 8 p.m., you have plenty of time left, but there's no energy to do anything. That's a problem that we have right now. It's managing energy becomes even more important. Matrix that matters, and why it matters, because urgent stuff is primal. Last-minute stuff, urgent, from somebody who is well recognized or stuff like that, it will just hit your emotional brain. The more you understand it, the more you know it has some quirks in it, and the more you will be able to regain the logic. And logically, all of you wanted to live a life that has a lot of value, but a little time pressure. It's not possible, sorry. So you have to play this game of your brain that wants to, let's say, be on the border. Habits that protect you, 30 40 days, maybe 20, to form a habit. Once you get it, you have it nearly for free. The key concept is a constant trigger, constant reward, the same action, repeatable, and no matter if you skip some days, it doesn't matter. If your brain sees the pattern, trigger, action, reward, it will give you this spike of dopamine, which is all we need to automate the habit for the rest of your life. And managing multiple projects, for me, not mix tasks with projects. Have them separate. Tasks need to be well-defined. You have the tool now to regain control when you're lost. Projects is a different story. It's something like 2 weeks plus, and you have something that takes a week. It's a very tiny project, or it has a really big task. So you divide into smaller pieces, and suddenly you have steps that you can follow. So this perspective is just maybe subtle and maybe not very revolutionary, but I find when people just start using it, their life improves so much better, because suddenly there's not like fix my car and then write a thesis. I've seen such task lists, like task that has like 2 months next to a task that has 1 hour. And when you confuse the two, you're in trouble. So my recommendations: 1, write down all your tasks, everything that you have on your mind. Your mind is for having ideas, not holding them. In emotional situations, you will have the tool to regain control. Separate projects from tasks. When you have task list, find anything larger than 2 hours, larger than 2 weeks, and it's a project for sure, or area of your life. And tasks are on task list, project list is separate. Then you look on your task list, and you split big things into smaller ones. It makes so much easier, because usually big tasks are very vague, and you need something well-defined, because then your brain thinks, okay, that's easy, let's do it. That's a call, that's an email to answer, that's something I know how to do. Then the 4th thing, create your short list. If you have a list of 30, 40, 50 tasks, that's nice, but we need something much shorter. You can even create a separate list called Today, and maybe drag and drop if you're in an application, or on a post-it, you just rewrite 5, 6, 7 tasks. That's all we need. Experiment with taskless habit. What I mean is, what's the reward? What's the trigger? We need some experiments, because you are unique. Something that works for you may not work for me. And that needs some experiments, and suddenly you will feel it. Okay, that's it. I like that application, actually. I like yellow post-its. That they work best, glued to my laptop. So when you experiment with it a bit, you find your art of time management, which may be completely strange to anybody else. And for me, the critical thing is have fun with the process. Fun is here in a very primal brain. Your brain loves having fun. And if it's boring, you will never actually be done with your habits. Because when your brain thinks it's boring or it's overwhelming, it's really hard to create any habit out of something that you find exhausting. So if it has this element of fun in it, that's how, in my opinion, you get successful habits. Thank you. That was an introduction. Now I get questions from you, and I'll be happy to answer whatever there is from Jarek. So part 2. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Well, separate projects from tasks, easier said than done. I'm speaking on behalf of people from gig economy, like artists, like journalists, like myself. And it's really difficult to even tell where the work actually starts and when it ends, because if I'm listening to the record, I'm working already, or do I work when I'm writing about it? If the artist is like, playing on his instrument without some sense of purpose, but he's still practicing, is he working now? Or is he only working on stage or in a rehearsal place?
Can you rephrase the question a bit? Because I didn't get like the juice of it.
It's hard to tell when the work actually starts and when it stops in some of the jobs that we have in music industry. So how to divide that in tasks and projects?
So there's one more concept that we probably have to introduce is we talked about value, and value can mean different things. And I would keep 4 things separate. One thing is, let's say, achieving your goals. That's one type of activities. That means that's how most people connect productivity with achieving goals. And that's why we have this task list and project list and everything. That's one type, usually related to productivity. But then we have 3 other. The other is getting some rest, because you need long-term energy, like your inner battery running out there. And rest has a big value, because if you don't do it well, it's like driving a car really fast and not stopping. You'll just end up in the middle of nowhere with no fuel, and it will take you even extra time. And you probably know it, that if you're focused too much on tasks and tasks and tasks without rest, then suddenly you're sick, and you didn't have time to rest for 2 hours, but now you have time to lie in bed for a week. So this is the strange behavior. So to protect long-term value, not in the context of one day, rest is super crucial. And then even knowing how you recharge your inner battery is the best. For some people, it's nature. For some people, it's listening to music. For some people, it's workout or doing something physical. For some people, it's playing with kids, which have like super creative stuff. And so finding how you charge your physical batteries best and your emotional batteries. So that would be number 2. Number 3 is relationships, which is also, when I talk with some of you, it's for pleasure or maybe some connection or bond or trust or whatever there is. There's no goal in it, but there's a big value if, I don't know, I share my personal story, we get really closer connection. That's much better than, let's say, random talking about anything that don't create this. And we know that some conversation have like 100 times better value than the others. We feel it. But number 4 is crucial in, let's say, our industry, which is creative time. And creative time is completely opposite to the goals and, let's say, achieving them. Because creative time needs just a box and no expectations. And then you start connecting the dots. And actually, from my observations in 21st century, creative time is dying. Because everything has a purpose. Everything is for something. And there's no like, okay, I take the instrument and let's see what happens. And let's say this box number 1, which is achieving goals, is super crucial because we have goals to achieve. But then if you don't have this box number 4, creative time, there's no new fuel added back to the system. You just do things over and over again, and then it's boring. That's unfortunately a quirk of this part of our brain, that if we do things that is repeatable, our chemistry forces us to do something new. And creative time is something that has tremendous value. So for me, the long-term value of our life is keeping these 4 times in balance. Because one gives you achieving goals, the other gives us fuel and, let's say fuel, that's it. Relationships give us feel of connection. It's also very primal. And creative time gives a new, fresh perspective on things. That's why we are here. We want to look at the same things from a bit different perspective, get something. We want to be surprised by coming here or listening to things like that. So in some periods of your life, maybe the balance is you feel you need some more rest. And maybe in some times of your life, you think you need some more creative time because you're tired with the things that are repeatable and you feel like you're driven into something new. But then it's too much of the new stuff. Let's now focus on something that can be done, or recording an album, or do something tangible and get some feedback and then redo that loop again. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I felt it. Mm-hmm.
You said that people crave control. So maybe illusion of control would be just enough. So maybe we should work rather on reduction of anxiety than on improving the productivity, because the result could be like quite similar.
Partially, I agree. Yeah, we humans are strange. It's like one day you feel your life makes no sense, and then you eat pierogi, and everything's well again. So this illusion of control, there's no real control. Okay, there's just an illusion that we can do some things. And actually, this is a huge reward to our brain. We can say that I broke my leg because there was Friday 13th. That's what we would say in Poland. And it makes no sense logically, but it gives you this sense of control that it's Friday 13th. If I didn't go anywhere, I won't break my leg. So this is that's why we create stuff like that. And so partially studying things like this give you this feeling of control, which is actually what makes you a little bit more calm. And actually, that's a good thing, because then you have more cognitive capacity to make good decisions, which actually what matters the most.
Out of the 4 options you've presented, I've chosen the second one, big value and low time pressure. But then, after a couple of minutes, I just realized, who am I trying to cheat? I mean, I love deadlines.
Yes.
I'm most efficient under like strict deadlines.
Yeah, yeah. That's a part of admitting we're humans, that to some extent you cannot fight this thing. And once you understand it, you can fight a bit, because then you will never do medical examinations. You will never call your close friends. You may call them today, or you may call them in a week. Nothing happens. So there's this balance of drive for last minute. The only thing that we have to manage is to not get too exhausted. So, because you know that this urgency, last-minute work, is actually really satisfying. It's like, if we meet after the conference and have, let's say, a beer, what we'll share? We'll share, okay, I made this project, it was on time, and everybody was happy. It's like, it's super boring. We talk about stuff like last minute, and then I made this call, and finally we saved the project. Wow, that's the stories we tell. The problem is, if we go to this box number 1, or 3, which is the urgent stuff, if it's too much of it, then we draw on too much energy, and then we get sick. And that's the cycle of many people. Like, we're super productive for a week or 2, but we use so much resources that then we get sick for a week, and then the cycle repeats. And it's not how I would like to live. I have other values, maybe that I have more control. In the, let's say, if I'm in my 20s, 30s, or 40s, or 50s, or 60s, it will be different. If I have kids or don't have kids, it will be different. So assessing this balance and where I want to push and how much resources I have, we're living, for me, in times that have very little, we know very little about how much resources we have. If I now ask you, let's say, you have a battery inside. If you have a phone, it has a charge. Let's say you charge your phone overnight to 100%. Then you realize after 4 hours that you have 20%. So you go into settings, and most phones now have this battery charge, but there is battery condition. And it may be 50%. That means that 100% was not 100%, but 100% of 50%. And so this battery condition. And now if I ask you, what's your battery condition, like Jarek or whatever, what would you say? It's like, I don't know. You do medical examinations, but we don't know. We know one moment, we get sick. It's 10%. Okay, too late. And then once you know your body a bit more, you know these signals that your body gives you. You're at 50%, you're at 30%. So you can, let's say, build this background sensitivity to what your body tells you. That's super important for me, to actually live a more satisfying life. Because I know, okay, my body tells me I'm at 40%, let's say, and I need rest, but I can plan this rest so it doesn't disturb the flow of my work. And it's not like super productive, sick, super productive, sick. I don't want such cycle.
Yeah, I mean, we're all humans, but we're different, and our brains are different. So maybe you are structured to kind of manage time of your work, but maybe some other people are not, and maybe just all comes down to like personal character features.
Yeah, agree. That's an art, to find a time management system that works for you. And I'd say it's a spectrum, how much structure you need. That's one critical component in time management. That would be my first question, like how much structure you love to be. There are people that love structure, that love clear desk, and having inbox zero and techniques like that. It's a lot of structure and clarity, and they do Pomodoro technique, and everything is named. All right, and labeling system. There are people who love it. On the opposite spectrum, we have the rebels. Rebels, I love you. You do my life more interesting. Rebels are not even that they don't need structure, but whatever structure there is, they say, I don't need this. I will live without it. But for me, it's like in finances. There is a protective structure that gives you this feel of it's under control. Some people love taking every receipt and writing down what they spend their time, money on. Some need like monthly snapshot of how much money they have. And there's something roughly in between, but the key point is, once you have enough structure, you can go free ride. Like, suddenly you have the urge to buy a course or, I don't know, a record or something. You know that, okay, I have this amount of money to spend this month, or this year, or I have just enough money, bang, I do it. Or there is a retreat on Caribbean, 2 spots left, with very famous musicians. I go there, bam, I buy it. Why? Because you know that within the structure of your money management, there is something that holds you safe, and there is a huge space of being spontaneous. And that's what successful time management for me is, that building just enough structure for you to feel calm and under control, but then you can go free ride completely. It's like, for me, I do the presentation, I don't know what I'll be doing in an hour. That's my, let's say, creative time. But once I have enough structure, I don't have to focus that much on, then with money, on situations like, so I made that decision, it was super spontaneous, and now I'm on alone, spiraling down and taking my life into misery. So, yes, there are extremes, and for me, crucial thing is to have tools, like puzzles, and then building your system out of these puzzles. So some people love paper management, some people love apps, and even changing app every 2 months because they love new stuff. If that's for them, why not do it? So my role is to maybe make it more systematic and giving you the puzzles, but what you build out of these puzzles is up to you. And actually, it's never done because you change. And in 2 years, your system will be different because you changed. Or maybe, I don't know, you collected some amount of money and you think, it's time in my life to do more traveling. And your time management will change for traveling, and it will be different when you're at home. It will be different when you're hard working on a project. And when you're dealing, I don't know, with time in the life that are festivals. Yeah, your time management during summer is different than in winter. And we had multiple guests here, and many things in music are very seasonal. We are very directed by sunlight as well, our amount of energy and stuff like that. So even if we have stable time management system, it's different in winter, it's different in summer. Because even without anything changing, your level of energy is different. Oh, I could go on and on, so feel free to interrupt.
We're talking about individual experience here, but how does your system, your puzzles, how do they apply to organizations? And maybe like less formal structures, how do you think they would apply to, like, for example, bands? Mm-hmm. Because there is no like formal structure. There is no like, maybe there is a leader, but it's usually, the very informal things, informal dynamics and informal time frame of work.
So there's this magical experience, but maybe start with the first part of your question. The organizational productivity is where I started. And there are tons of materials and consultants that help organizations be more productive. That's more or less well-organized stuff. The thing I found is that there's plenty of help for organizations, but very little for just humans as we, how to organize our daily life. That's why I switched to being a human, because we have multiple contexts, like relationships, and it also applies back to organizations. But we have our life purpose or values or stuff that really doesn't matter in the context of organizations. So that's part number one. I shifted and all the techniques that could be applied, but actually for me, personal productivity is much more interesting because this is where more emotions come into play and you talk about art and music and stuff like that. The second part of your question, once again, was about
informal,
band.
yeah.
So the magical experience for me is when people sit down, they even look at this equation that may be super boring for some. That's a value divided by effort. And then we talk about what value is. We're a band, and we talk about value in the next month. Hey guys, what are the things that could give us the biggest value? And some people would say, we need more promotion. And some people would say, we need more practice. And some people, and then because...
And then they sack the bass player.
Yeah. Or change the amp, or I don't know. Yeah. But there's this magic that's happening when we start talking not about what we should do, but about value. What gives... Why do you think more promotion would give us more value? Or because that gives me a bit more perspective, because I'm more into amps and playing and practicing, while actually people don't care. But people will care about maybe more emotional story about what we play about. And by exchanging this value, even here, we will have side discussions like, what is the value for you in this industry or in your work? And actually, this is what happens in small groups when their trust is built already. Then we have much deeper conversation of what value is. Maybe a band need to be like dissolved or regroup because we find that we have different value. I want to be local and don't want to tour too much because I have kids, small kids, and I want to spend more time with them, while the other goes crazy in his life and want to tour everybody and everywhere. And we have conflicting value we want to get out of the next year, let's say. So I would answer this way. That of course, there is no magical solution, but for me, the moment that we stop, we look into the past, what gives us the most value, and then what we can do to maximize this value. So what was the 20% that gave us 80% result? And then how do we more of this 20% and not just get busy? Because we are all very busy. But the moment we stop and reflect, what is actually the core value of what we do, and how do we get like 5 times more of it? That's a conversation we should be having.
I'm going to ask you about the tools, as there is like lots of management, time management software around, all these Hives, Todoists, Google tools. So it's even difficult to like manage the time managing software on a daily basis. Is there anything that you would recommend, like for the start?
So there are multiple types of software, and there are tools within a specific box. Everyone need to have a calendar. Calendar is for things that are bound to specific time, and you can have calendar that's paper, that's Google Calendar, that's Apple Calendar, or it's Microsoft. That's it. That's all choice you have for now, if you want to be, let's say, mainstream. So we put in a calendar things like this presentation or this conference because it's bound to specific time. Then we have task lists. Task lists are for things that you can freely switch in time until the deadline. So paying Zeus or things like that. Or maybe calling someone. I told I will call him before Friday, so I put the task. I can do it on Wednesday or Thursday, but not later than Friday. For task lists, there are multiple apps. Like for starter, I would recommend things like Todoist or TickTick or Microsoft To Do. If someone does a lot of emailing in Microsoft Office, Microsoft To Do would be the nice choice to convert email to task back and forth. So probably that would be the 3 used the most. And there are, of course, bigger apps. But these three are the most popular nowadays, I would say. Easy, available on all devices, they sync well together. You just test one, the second and the third, and you see, okay, I love this because I love simple. So you find something that works for you. Then we have multiple tools for focus. We could talk hours on focus. There are things like Pomodoro technique, all these Pomodoro timers that just you restrict for some time, you disable all notifications and distractions, and you go with full focus in a task. But there's a timer telling you there's an outside world that maybe needs an answer, like call back somebody or write an email or stuff like that. So there's plenty of tools there, like timers. But it doesn't matter. What you need is a timer that you like. Maybe it's physical, maybe it's a timer in your phone. And I think the fourth element is just a storage space, like Google Drive or Dropbox or anything like that. That's the core 4 elements for me, that like calendar, a task list, techniques that improve your focus, usually timers, and storage.
Okay, I have many more questions, but maybe there's a question from the audience or on chat. Yeah, can you please use the microphone?
Hey, I have a question related to control, and maybe lack of control. If I, from the beginning, starting from that point, then I surrender and I'm saying that I don't have a control over anything. Is that working with time management well, or it shouldn't? Because you said that control and that need of control, it's important in time management.
So you say you don't need it, or you don't want it, or
if I'm starting a day with a moment of meditation and saying to myself that I don't have control over this day. I will do my best, but I mean, you know, it's because you said that it's important in time management. Yeah, it's giving you the drive and so on.
So this sentence for me is a form of control. That you say, I'm going free ride. Whatever happens is good. But that's actually framing your brain into accepting whatever there is, and it's a form of control, because the moment you switch to that mode, even if something surprising happens, you made that decision that it's okay. So that's, I would say, one thing. The second thing is, if we think about time management, let's say for a day, the week, next season, like winter is coming, and then 20 years, we'll have a different story about how much control we want and what control is about. Because you meditate, you let go, and for me, crucial thing is to be able to be in both extremes, actually. So productivity is a strange space that you build a sense of control, but if you're too stick to it, you're nervous and your life is really miserable. So you put some kind of structure, and at the same time you understand that you will never get it done, all of it. It's not the point. The point is to have a direction that will give you this feeling that you live the fullest of your life. So feeling more alive while we alive. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Thanks.
I have one last question, and it's about young mothers.
My favorite. And what's the question?
The question is, apparently you've learned a lot from young mothers about time management skills. So what would that be?
Oh, I could talk for hours about this. So, like Tamara was a young mother when she was in my course. And the funny thing is, in time management, most of the, let's say, gurus are men. Men don't have these strange cycles. They sometimes have little understanding you have a day that you will do nothing, and you understand it like 8 a.m. And you can fight with it, or you can accept it. So that's your part of your control. I'm letting go, because it's so much pain, I can't work. And so women are naturally better in managing the cycles, why I find men mostly like, I push harder. And that's a tendency. It's not like judgment, it's better or worse. But I find women much more going with the flow rather than being pushy. That's one thing. The second thing is, with mothers, you have to expect the unexpected at all times, especially when the kid is, let's say, under 12 months old. And so it forces to have that fluency that you have your plan, but it's upside down. And so you build just enough structure to sustain your life. At the same time, it's like puzzles that you can put here and there and just make another plan out of this. So it's not completely broken and you have redo from scratch, but you kind of do a byproduct, and then you just maybe restructure some things, and that's what you need. And the third thing is, I find young mothers usually strict down to 15 to 20 minute period that's, let's say, controllable. That's the most we can get. So what they do, they cut their tasks down to 15 or 20 minutes. That's how much they get. We can, sit down and say, I need 1 hour. You don't have 1 hour. So most people will cut down tasks to 1 hour or 30 minutes. But then you have 20 minutes. That's all you have, or 15 minutes. So suddenly your task list is filled with small atomic tasks that you can do while the baby is asleep and you have your 15 minutes of time. So they are adjusting, and once you get through this period that you need to cut your tasks into the chunks of 15 minutes, you're then an expert of cutting down anything to the chunks you want. Because if I give a task to any person, cut down this task so each element of it is at most 1 hour, usually people struggle a lot to do it. But young mothers can cut it down to 15 minutes and still get this feeling, I did a progress. And I did a progress is a very satisfying thing that if you have a paper task list, that's done, and that's a beautiful spike of dopamine again. So I think these 3 takeaways.
Thank you, Piotr. That was very interesting and I'm sure very useful for many of us. Thank you for being with us here. Thank you for watching this. Now go back to work. Just kidding. There is plenty of great panels and workshops today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.